Welcome to this explainer. Look, we live in a world completely obsessed with overnight success and quick hacks, right? But today, we're tossing all of that out the window. We're going to dive into 3 timeless parables that will totally reframe your modern journey to success: patience, humility, and discipline. Whether you're building an online business, trying to master a complex new skill, or really just navigating your own personal growth, these 3 foundational pillars are exactly what you need. Let's get into it. So be incredibly honest with yourself for a second here. Why do some people grow while others just stop? You know the feeling. You're putting in the hours, you're reading the books, you're doing literally everything the experts tell you to do, but nothing is happening. The needle just isn't moving. It's incredibly frustrating, isn't it? You look around, you see other people growing, and you can't help but wonder why your own efforts seem to be hitting a massive brick wall. Why do some folks keep evolving while others stall out and eventually quit? Well, to answer this, we need to completely shift our perspective on what progress actually looks like. Pillar 1, patience, the bamboo that waited. Okay, so our first story centers around an old bamboo farmer and a highly impatient young man. Just imagine this agonizing timeline for a second. In a quiet mountain village, an old farmer wakes up before sunrise every single day. He carries his wooden buckets to a patch of soil, pours water over completely empty ground, and just walks away. The young man watches this. Year 1, nothing happens. Year 2, rain or shine, the farmer is out there watering dirt. Still nothing. The young man actually laughs at him, asking why on earth he's wasting his time. Year 3, year 4, still totally empty. The whole village starts whispering, right? They're saying he's lost his mind, he's too stubborn, he should just plant something else. But the farmer? He never argues. He just keeps watering. Then we hit the 5th spring. The young man expects another patch of empty dirt, but instead, he sees small green shoots piercing right through the ground. He shouts in excitement, assuming all that hard work finally paid off overnight. But, as you'll see, he was completely missing the bigger picture here.
This brilliantly illustrates the massive disconnect between what we see on the surface and what is actually happening underneath. You see, the farmer looks at the young man and explains that for 5 whole years, that bamboo wasn't just doing nothing. It was growing exactly where no one could see it. It was building roots. Think about it. If that bamboo had grown tall before its roots were strong, the very first storm would have just snapped it right in half. The young man had spent 5 years only looking at the surface, the empty dirt, the seemingly wasted time. But the farmer trusted those invisible roots. He knew that the absolute greatest growth always begins beneath the surface.
Let's bring this to today. We start a new project with incredible excitement. We check all the boxes, right? We upload a few videos, write some posts, share them out. And then, absolute crickets. We look around. We see some teenager with 1 million followers doing silly dances. We assume we've completely failed and we just stop. We literally stop watering the dirt. What we completely fail to realize is that every single video is teaching us better storytelling. Every blog post is refining our writing. Every mistake is actually building our experience. We are building our roots. That daily effort is exactly what prepares us for the eventual growth. So please, don't measure your progress only by what others can see. Moving on to Pillar 2, humility, the empty cup. Now, patience is essential, absolutely, but it's not enough if your mind isn't actually ready to learn. This brings us to a legendary encounter between a famous Zen master and a very arrogant young merchant. This guy had watched hundreds of videos, read all the books, and hiked all the way up the mountain to meet the master, completely convinced he already knew everything there was to know about business, affiliate marketing, websites, the whole shebang. But when he arrived, the master didn't give him a lecture. He simply sat him down and began pouring hot tea into a tiny cup. And he kept pouring. The tea spilled over the edge, across the table, and right onto the floor. The young merchant jumped up, yelling for him to stop because the cup was full and couldn't hold anymore. And that is exactly when the master looked right at him and said, "The cup is already full, so is your mind." He told the merchant that he came asking for wisdom, but his mind was already packed full. You simply cannot pour anything new into a cup that is already overflowing. So emptying your cup doesn't mean forgetting what you know. It just means intentionally making room for what you don't. The merchant was deeply humbled by this. When the master asked him how many actual businesses he had built or customers he had genuinely served, the answer was 0, literally 0, all theory, no practice. So the merchant stayed for several weeks and completely changed his approach. Instead of trying to impress everyone with fancy buzzwords, he simply listened. He practiced, he learned how to actually solve problems, and most importantly, he focused on understanding people before he ever tried to sell to them. He allowed himself to make mistakes. He accepted correction. He finally emptied his cup. And you know what? An empty cup naturally leads to a very specific formula for success. When the merchant finally started his business, he didn't go chasing quick money, because the fullest cup in the room is usually the one that learns the least. By staying teachable, he realized that real success follows a very deliberate progression. It goes like this: skills create value, value creates trust, and trust creates lasting success. If you try to skip the skills and the value and just try to hack your way to success, you are building a bamboo stalk with zero roots. The absolute fastest way to grow is simply to remain teachable. And that brings us to pillar 3, discipline, the library with 10 doors. You hear it all the time, right? People complaining that successful folks just have hidden secrets, special connections, or pure luck. Well, a young man with this exact complaint was told by his teacher to open the 10 doors of a massive library. Behind every single door, the teacher explained, is a different world-class teacher, and absolutely none of them will ask you for a single penny. So he opened the doors, and what did he find? OpenAI, Google, Stanford, Meta, DeepLearning.ai, Hugging Face, Kaggle, Anthropic, and Claude. The sheer volume of free, world-class knowledge available to us right now is just staggering. We are living in a moment where the most advanced technological education in human history is quite literally at our fingertips, completely free of charge, no gatekeepers. The young man looks at all these open doors, totally stunned, and said, "I thought success was hidden." And the teacher replied with a truth that basically defines our current era. He said, "Knowledge is no longer hidden. Discipline is." Just let that sink in for a second. This is the new reality we live in. The barrier to entry? It's gone. The excuse that you just don't know the secrets? Completely gone. The only thing separating you from a completely different future is the discipline to actually sit down, study, practice, and apply what you learn from those open doors day after day. Information alone doesn't change your future. Applied discipline does. Your path forward, tying it all together. So let's bring all of this together. As we've seen, you have to be willing to water the empty dirt for as long as it takes, trusting that your daily efforts are building those deep, invisible roots. We've seen that you must approach every single day with an empty cup, treating your pride for the humility to remain teachable so you can build genuine skills and real value. And finally, we've seen that the doors to world-class knowledge are wide open, meaning discipline is your only true differentiator now. So I want to leave you with this question. What outdated belief or arrogant assumption do you need to pour out of your cup today? And of all the incredible free resources available to you, which door will you boldly open first? The choice is entirely yours. Keep building those roots.